Couple of Ohio guys talking about the GCL.
Sports.
That's right. It's just you're just north of Dayton, Cincinnati powerhouse. St. Xavier, Elder, Purcell, all those places. House Republicans wasting no time in their new majority. The Judiciary Committee firing off a number of subpoenas targeting the Biden administration last Friday, demanding documents surrounding its response to threats against school officials during the pandemic. Let's bring in Congressman Jim Jordan of Ohio, chair of the House Judiciary Committee. He's also a member of a newly formed subcommittee that seeks to investigate alleged weaponization of the federal government. I guess one party's view of weaponization is one thing, the other is something entirely different. Are all these things what the American people want or expect you to do at this point, Congressman?
We talked about certainly during the campaign. I mean, when you have two standards of justice, which is what I think we now have in our Justice Department, and you have Americans who I think with common sense see that, they expect their government to serve the people, not target them. And we know that that's been the latter's been the case because of the number of whistleblowers who've come talk to us. We've now had over 2 dozen whistleblowers come talk to us, FBI agents who come to us and say, look, this is what's going on. This is how political the Justice Department has become. So that's why we have that select committee. But then, of course, in the full committee, we got a host of issues we want to deal with. First and foremost is the border that is no longer a border. That was our first hearing last week, and we'll continue to focus on that issue and have legislation that we bring forward. I
think it's like anything else. I think you can get 50% of the country said, you know what, I want to know whether there was influence peddling in the Hunter Biden case, for example. You're going to pursue that. The other half says there's nothing here. There's no there. Any of these things you're talking about, the balloon. I saw half the country say we don't care about the balloon. The other half is like, this is the worst security breach that we've ever seen. It's so divided. I guess you have to look into your own soul and decide what is important. You can't be just with the whims of public opinion. You can't go that way.
Yeah, but I do think there's an attack on the First Amendment. And if you look at what Elon Musk exposed with the release of the Twitter files, I do think you saw government putting pressure and working with big tech to keep information from the American people. And of course, the biggest example is the Hunter Biden laptop story, where you had 51 former Intel officials write the letter October 19th of 2020, where they said the Hunter Biden story has all the classic earmarks of a Russian information operation. Nonsense. It wasn't. It was the truth. But they said it, and that became the norm. And then you had the FBI meeting weekly with folks out in Silicon Valley, and they squelched that story. They kept that story from circulating and the American people seeing it just days before the most important election we have, which is election for president of the United States. It's not supposed to work that way. You're supposed to be, freedom of speech, the First Amendment is supposed to be protected, not have the government pressure big tech to keep that information from the American people.
The antitrust individual that we have doesn't seem totally committed to maybe holding big tech to feet to the fire. At least that's the perception.
No, we're committed to holding their feet to the fire and stopping them from censoring conservatives.
I'm talking about, he's certainly not going to break them up, not worried about monopoly power, not worried about any of the things that the last Justice Department was worried about.
Well, if you look at the piece done on the Thomas Massey, who we've put as the chairman of that subcommittee, the piece in Breitbart where he said no monopoly is safe. I think that's Thomas is focused where I think Republicans are and most Americans are, is we don't want monopoly power out there. And all too often it's the regulations that are in place. It's a whole host of things that are in place that allow that. So we're going to look at all that. But specifically on big tech, we want to make sure if they're going to censor someone, they got to tell you. And we're going to look at Section 230, and there's got to be some kind of transparency when they do it. There's got to be some kind of accountability if they're going to continue to go after conservatives, which we know they did over the last couple of years.
How hopeful should we be about the Republican caucus being able to come together? You used to be way out there, one of the founders of the Freedom Caucus. People used to point to you, and you were begging these other guys to get in line to elect Speaker McCarthy. So suddenly, you're almost a problem. You're almost a problem solver. You're almost.
I don't know about that, but I do think
we'll get anywhere. You can't wrangle these cats.
Well, I do think we'll come together. We've come together on getting rid of the 87,000 IRS agents, other things we've passed already. We came together and elected a speaker. I think Speaker McCarthy knows how to bring our team together. He did it while we were in the minority. Now, I understand it's a little tougher when you're in the majority but I do think that'll be the case. And remember, just 8 weeks ago, they passed this $1.7 trillion spending monstrosity that funded all kinds of stupid things, plankton studies and all kinds of crazy things. And then 3 weeks ago, Karine Jean-Pierre said, we will not negotiate with Republicans on the debt ceiling. Well, that changed pretty quick because last Wednesday there was Speaker McCarthy meeting with President Biden about the debt ceiling.
Well, so they got to do that, right? Is that going to? We're going to be okay there. At the same time, Speaker McCarthy, Patrick McHenry just said we're not going to default. It's never going to happen. It is going to be raised. But then both sides seem locked into.
Well, their position's crazy, Joe. Their position is we spent like crazy. Republicans didn't support that. Oh, now you need to give us more money. We need to borrow more money.
You're not going to balance a budget in 10 years without raising taxes or doing something.
They've had record spending, record inflation, record debt. We can't continue down that path. So we're saying, look, we need some kind of common sense spending restraint, some kind of structural reforms that we put in place that are going to help us deal with the problem they've created over the last 2 years with their record spending, record inflation, record debt.
When the American people are going to watch the Republican House pass all kinds of stuff, they're going to repeal, I don't know, the 15% corporate tax. They're going to try and defund the IRS. And none of it's going to go anywhere. And we're going to see, I mean, their staffs are up till 1 in the morning writing these things that are never going to pass. And the American people are like, why are you going through these,
That's how
the motion?
Yeah.
And then Republicans say, because we want people to know where we stand. Well, everybody knows where you stand.
Yeah.
Already. So no one needs to know that. So what's the point?
Well, look, I think this is the way American politics works, American government works, is you have to show the country what you would do that would actually fix the problems. We know there are all kinds of problems. We got a border that's not a border. We got record crime, record inflation, record energy costs. I mean, inflation's outpacing wage growth. Everyone knows the problem. That's why 7 out of 10 Americans think that we're on the wrong track. So we got to show them, if we pass these things, this would fix the problems that they've created. If Chuck Schumer won't take them up and Joe Biden won't sign them, so be it. We have a presidential election coming in 2024.
World, you'd think that all you would want to work on are things that maybe you could work with the other side on. But I will grant you this. When we talk about, the only time you hear about bipartisanship is when people want Republicans to do what Democrats are proposing. It's like in the mainstream media, I see it all the time.
Yeah.
We need more bipartisan. No one's saying that Democrats need to do any of these things that you're talking about. That'll never be that way.
Bipartisanship is doing what Democrats want, according to the mainstream press. But look at the debt ceiling. The Democrats want just increase the debt ceiling. Don't do any kind of spending restraint. Don't do any kind of structural changes. That's crazy. That's not bipartisan. That's just continuing the same old, which has led to record inflation, record debt, record spending.
Before we go, so you're a big supporter of former President Trump. Do you think he's a viable option for 2024?
Heck yeah. No president has done more what they said than President Trump did. And he got those things done with everyone in this town against him. Every Democrat, everyone in the mainstream press, half the Republicans, and more importantly, everyone in the bureaucracy was against him.
But it's not just the Lincoln Project and Bill Kristol anymore that's saying we need somebody new. It's a lot of mainstream and even some people to the Kochs, people to the right of
you know what?
You're one of the last, and you think he can win in 2020?
He's winning right now. He's up in every poll. I think he wins the primary. Again, you have the race. Put them all on stage. I remember when he ran in 2016.
We're in the Capitol with everything that happened. You're okay with him back in the Oval Office?
Heck yeah. I mean, with President Trump, we had a border that was secure. We had job increases going up. We had wages going up for every demographic in our population. We were respected around the world. I mean, I remember about a year ago when Mike Pompeo got asked the question. He's doing an interview, and they said, Secretary Pompeo, this is when Russia went into Ukraine. They asked him, Secretary Pompeo, would this have happened under President Trump? And Secretary Pompeo gave the best answer. He said, the short answer is I don't know. But I do know this. It didn't happen under President Trump. And that is all the difference. You think this balloon thing would have happened under President Trump? I mean, that is the difference as well. When you have to project strength from the Oval Office. We certainly don't have that with Joe Biden.
You don't buy that it did happen under President Trump, the balloons?
Come on.
I like that. They were like unnamed sources said that. But then the general did acknowledge that it happened. We just didn't know it happened.
Not one person in the national security personnel in the Trump administration heard about it. You can give me a break. I'm for Trump.
I hate it. The balloon was not that Euro big Trump balloon, was it? That's what we said. Did you see the meme that had?
Oh, no, I didn't. I've seen a number of memes, but I didn't see that one.
It was a good one. Congressman,